make a lying video saying that I stole money from an elderly woman? You want to make up lies, Gary, and then you call it it's all a good fun? This is not fun to destroy the reputation of somebody.
Okay, I thought that was really apt given what we're talking about here. But anyway, how are you gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's funny because when I saw, I'm like, that is like perfect for what we're going through right now. Oh my God.
I just so happened to have it up, so I was like, you know what? It is actually pretty apt here, so I'll use it. But yeah, so right now we got Nate, we got Scientist Sam. I am going to put the link out there for Fight the Flat Earth. He said he wanted to come in and make a statement. I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure it's to sort of address some of the stuff people have been saying, or to sort of just lay out what he feels is the case. And as always, people know my policy. If you are mentioned or referenced in any way, shape, or form, you are welcome to come in, right? And so this is not a gang up on somebody sort of scenario. So anyway, I'm going to try to mute as much as possible when I'm not talking to reduce the echo since I don't have phone. But a big shout out to Naked Manhole for making this graphic. Let me make it bigger here. There we go. All right. So as Nate was telling some of us about this whole scenario, a lot of us started drawing some parallels, and this sort of infographic sort of helps people illustrate what's going on. Just like with the Sean thing, we have an allegation out there, fraud, whatever, and then the person who is, allegedly the scammer, fraudster, whatever, then gives the information to Reds Rhetoric, right? Same person. Then it sort of starts to kind of filter in our direction. There's usually an intermediary, and in this case, Negative Exponents and Unirock obtained it, and I'm not exactly sure who gave it to them, but they ended up getting it, then Nate got it, then sort of everyone else got it. As it turns out, as we leave the second tier there, that's when things start to get uncovered, at least in Sean's case. Now in this case, we have, very similarly, Ilya Moon, we have her fundraiser that's in question. Immediately people go to Red's Rhetoric for whatever reason, and then Fight the Flat Earth is sort of pulled up here in an attempt to exonerate somebody within his tribe, right? And so he's trying to put on all the trappings of someone who's impartial and objective, and then he starts to give information to Nate, and so then Nate sort of disseminates it once we've made some progress. So now, Nate, what was Fight the Flat Earth's role in all of this?
Well, he was to be fair, he was like a partner, and it was trying to make sense of the information that we got. So Fight would, after we discover something, Fight would then go and take it to someone, the other side, and present any issues with it. These are wrong, that's wrong, that wrong. And then Fight was also instrumental in just trying to just sift through the amount of data that we had. So it was definitely a nice little balance, and obviously the sharing of information was important. So we had to go into this, myself and Fight, with kind of the mentality of we're not on anybody's side, right? It just was like, what's the evidence here, and what's the facts? And after we draw the facts, then you can support whoever you want, but just at least let the facts be known. And that's the way we had our relationship just going into this event. Now, I will say this: it was a lot harder to convince Fight of a lot of the inequities here, but eventually, I think he got to that.
All right, so let's actually take a look at it. Where is the okay? And these have been redacted, by the way, folks. So just if there's any concern about that, that's I already spoke to Nate. All the pertinent information has been redacted. So
let's go back. Go back to the first one.
Right there.
All right. So this is how we started off. Remember, they had this first live stream for this event. This was the cancer research. So this was one of the first initial receipts they showed. Now, obviously, it has an amount, how much the patient owes, the primary, and the office. So that was like our first inkling of what was going on. They presented this as these are payments for cancer. So go to the next receipt. And so this was another one of these receipts. I think it was $600 again for cancer. Go to the next receipt. Now, this is another supposedly receipt, for an estimated cancer and getting treatment for that. So this is what was put to the community. And look, can you zoom in on that so we can get that number down there, that $4,000 number? So it's an estimated patient's portion 4592. So that's what we all thought that this was from. This was all good, right? You got more or less this one invoice, $4,000. You're like, okay, we're good. This is what everything is going to cost. So from this now, people were saying, well, this is really not enough, right? We need, you asked us for X amount of money, and we need to see a receipt from the place, right? From this receipt has no, we don't know where it's from. This could just be typed up. We need a receipt that actually has the location of where it's coming from, right? This could be from anywhere.
So
that comes to the next.
Is this the order in which you received these? So first, okay, so you first received this one invoice for cancer fund. That's the little caption up there.
But again, hold on, go back to that receipt. What is that? Where's that from? What is that?
I have no idea. It just says fee, patient, primary. There's nothing on here. Like this could have been for toe jam removal. Anything.
I don't know what it is for.
So one of the things that I'm noticing, because I had a fairly major medical procedure. I had my toe reconstructed a couple of years ago, and this looks nothing like the type of bill that I would get. When I saw these receipts, I was like, as much as like medical billing procedures are really opaque and really nonsense, this looks just super random. These numbers look very random, especially for something like a cancer treatment. Where you do expect, like pretty specific reimbursements because it's an expensive treatment. So I don't know if that stood out to you guys as well.
So for me, Ed, by the way, is this better? I've moved my mic a little bit, so hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm in an auditorium. Okay. So my mother has had cancer treatments, and specifically, I think Ilya initially said chemotherapy of some type. And I'd asked my mother the second I heard that, I said, hey, how much did yours cost? And she had said it was around the tens of thousands of dollars. And so I said, okay, well, that actually sounds legit. And so when I heard, well, it was only several thousand, $6,000 to $7,000 for Ilya, I was like, well, that's odd. Okay. That was sort of my first red flag. And then I sort of understood like the progression or the chain of evidence, right? So first Ilya would give it to Reds, and then Reds would make a statement that he has verified, and I might have that screenshot somewhere, where he literally says on Twitter that he has verified that these receipts here are legit. So how he checked that, nobody knows, right? And so then we get to Fight the Flat Earth. Again, somebody saying, yeah, I'm looking into this, yada, yada. But it's not until we get to Nate that goes, okay, I'm pretty sure at least Fight was like, okay, I don't know where this is from, need some more. We get the quick pay here. It looks like a piece of an envelope somewhere. I don't know, could be. And then we finally get to this, which is a little bit more detailed. But I really, I can't tell where this is from, what was actually done, and it doesn't tell me anything. Right.
We don't call these receipts. We call these excuses, right? Because this is not a receipt, right? This is not something that you can verify. Exactly what you're saying.
This also doesn't look anything like what a medical. I know that I've been beating this drum, but I'm going to keep saying it. This doesn't look anything like what a procedure bill looks like. Especially if you got some sort of operation or some sort of treatment, right? They're going to line item the shit out of every single treatment. They're going to say, oh, this IV costs $10, and anyone who looks at a medical bill, they're going to know. And this is super nondescript as well. And it doesn't look like anything.
Yeah. And just like Drag was saying, what it does, it just makes you question, okay, what is this really for? Now, essentially, if someone was, getting fair treatment, for cancer, it's easy. You take a screenshot of the bill, you put it up, and it could be no doubts, right? You redact your name. So now this is where Fight the Flat Earth became instrumental in the story. They wanted to pass off another invoice. So I sent Flat, because for redactions, there's actually a process. There's a process that you can give people. So I said, here's what you can't. These are the only things you can redact. You redact the person's name. You redact any identifying information, but you don't redact the name of the hospital, right? You don't redact those type of things. So that would so Fight then got this next document with those, with only the minimal redactions that we would allow.
Real quick, I just wanted to sort of show people what some of the comments were, and so you can see it. Yeah. So someone tried to, actually several people tried to sort of point out to Fight the Flat Earth, hey, a lot of these things don't sort of add up, right? What you're being given. And so Fight the Flat Earth goes, yeah, I've watched plenty of Jim and Kid Boga. Those are people who catch scammers, by the way, if you're not familiar with that. And so Fight the Flat Earth, he says he's watched these guys, and he knows what to look for, essentially, right? So he's watched YouTube videos, and he knows what to look for. There was no HTML editing. It was logged in and downloaded a PDF of transaction based on date range. I'm sure the payments are legit. Everyone sees that at the bottom?
I just have to say that this is just completely ridiculous, right? Like, I've watched countless MMA fights. I don't know how to throw hands worth shit. This is really just for a guy that constantly is holding himself up as a skeptic. This is just it's pretty awful, because there's so many easy ways that all of this could have been faked, and like Nate said, there's just no identifiable information on here, and so like he got taken for a ride, and I think that it kind of shows that you have to know what you know, but you also have to know what you don't know.
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand your limitations. Again, Fight Flat Earth said that he did want to come in and make a statement. If anyone spots him in the chat, please let me know. I'm sort of keeping an eye on the chat, but the invitation's still open. All right, so this is the one that I really latched onto, because for one thing, I looked at the header, the Thompson Cancer Survival Center, whatever covenant, and it looked wonky. But when the first time I saw that, I thought back to, okay, well, what did the medical stuff look like back when I was, a young combat medic? Like, did anything look anything like this? Okay, cool. You got your little boilerplate, like little image up there, but it still seems off. It still seems,
that header is way too close to that borderline, right?
Yes.
It's just that is just like really, that's because you want to have space so people can read it. So it automatically, that was the first red flag, right? This header doesn't look like an actual header. It looks like somebody placed it there and didn't know how to actually place it on the document. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that's what I said. It looks a little weird. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but now that you look at it, there's hardly any space between those letters and that top bar, that margin right there. So one of the other things that we sort of talked about were the invoice numbers, and I didn't realize this until I talked to my wife, which she at a previous job did something very similar to this. And down here, let me make sure people can see it. Right, same invoice number. So we have these. What are these? These are 2 dates. This is November 13, 2020, and then there's a November 20th, 2020. And both of these invoice IDs are exactly the same. And so, is that something that you uncovered, Nate, or was that somebody else?
Well, actually, that was the YBI, the YouTube Bureau of Investigations.
And just for clarification, that Uniroc's sort of group of his crack team of investigators? Okay.
Yes. So Uniroc's crew, the YBI, they actually went through the document and said, okay, what do we see any inconsistencies? Now, obviously, this is the most glaring, because so most people don't understand, when an invoice is paid off, that invoice number is dead. So it goes dead after it's paid off. Why? Because it's paid off. So since this invoice number, the first invoice number in red, was paid off, the system would automatically generate a new invoice number because that invoice is paid off. But here you have duplicate invoices. Now, before we had computers, there used to be actually people who should have to go back through invoices to make sure there were no duplicate numbers. You have to do that by hand. But now computers do this automatically. So you wouldn't see 2 invoices with the same number like this. So really just based on that, this is when we said, okay, well, we're going to just take this document and just call the hospital and say, hey, look at this receipt, and is this one of your receipts? Now, only thing we were just going to asking the hospital to say was, yes, this is how our receipt looks and what it's supposed to be, or no. And, and obviously we told them about our what is it, our problems with the document. We said, obviously there's 2 invoice numbers here. The top looks a little wonky. Is this one of your documents? Is this what you send out to people? And that's when we start getting the big issues.
Right. So this is the, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th sort of document that you've been handed through Fight the Flat Earth, who was handed to him by Reg Rhetoric, where it originally came from Ilya Moon, correct?
No, not these documents. Later on, the later documents, because all the stuff later we just got from
the later. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the first stuff from the live stream with Reds, and this is what she put up on GoFundMe.
Okay, so these are publicly available. Okay, and I think that will help sort of clear up who has what. Because if these were all public, if these were bits and pieces of information that are public, people can sort of look at that and go, yeah, and I think a lot of people did initially. A lot of people did. And so people who did have a huge issue with this may not have understood how to properly articulate some of their issues, but they're there. And so the people who are defending Ilya, I have to sort of call into question, what exactly were they looking for? Because you said that you called the hospital, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I did was, go ahead.
No, so if you called the hospital and this information was already sort of public, you said some of this was put on the GoFundMe, correct?
This receipt that you're seeing right here was put on the GoFundMe.
Okay, so this is public information. At any point in time, anyone defending Ilya could have called and double checked on this, but they did not. And it took you how long to figure out the thing about the formula? The formula, Nate. What did they tell you about the invoice numbers and the patient numbers, the discrepancies about that sort of thing?
Yeah, so as soon as we were going through the document, at first they were like, first they told us that, first it was hard for us to send them the document because they actually don't take external emails. So if you're going to send emails, you have to you can't send them emails. You can only fax stuff to them. So that was a problem. So after we after I faxed them this document, the woman was like, I've never seen anything like this. This is just, this is not something we've ever seen. Maybe we could just get her name, and if you know her name, then we can tell you if she's even, if we have even a patient named here like that. So I said, no, this is the document that she gave, and then they went on to the GoFundMe site and said, well, hold on. Where can we find the GoFundMe? So we had to talk them into, the search in GoFundMe to find it. So they found it, and they said, no, this just doesn't look right. It's just not our document. But they said, well, you know what? We are a big hospital system, so we're going to give you the number to call this woman at the main hospital center, and she'll tell you if any one of these hospitals in the state of Tennessee can find out if this is one of their documents. So when we went to the main one, they asked me to read off the invoice number.
Okay. So when you started reading that, what happened?
So I read the first 3 numbers, the 7, 8, and then I got to 3, and she was like, well, stop. That number's just not in our system. It's just not in our, those numbers are not in our system. They're fake. And I was like, what do you mean they're fake? She's like, yeah, the numbers are fake. But she said, just in case they give you something else. They said, what we need you to do is understand the way our IDs are, our client IDs are this. It's a letter, the last 2 digits of the year for the service, and then 10-digit numbers. So if you don't see anything like that on that document, then it's all fugazi. And then we got the document that had the unredacted patient ID, and it wasn't like that. So then we knew obviously these documents were fake.
Okay, so and that doesn't sound too far-fetched to me. If you're a hospital, you handle hundreds of thousands of cases whenever. You're going to need a formula to sort of track and understand who has what, right? So this convention that they have, they've expressed it to you, and did they express an interest, that is the hospital, in sort of trying to uncover whether or not a fraud has been committed and they were sort of implicated, or what was the sort of hospital's response to all this?
Well, at first they were, it was kind of like, well, right now we can't, because the hospital only thing we were asking them to do is verify a receipt. We weren't asking for any information. So in asking them how to verify receipt, they, that's where we came to this whole whether we can after we asked them to verify the receipt, they were like, they didn't want to say it was no or yes because they had so many hospitals, so many doctors. They were like, well, they would be in the system, but the way we would know for sure is if we had the date, if they had their name. So at that point in time, they were unwilling to say that it was a fake receipt, but they were saying that that's not the receipt they give.
It's inconclusive, essentially.
Yeah. So they said if you would just come back with either the person's name or the person's ID number, based on that formula, then we would know for sure if this person was ever a patient here.
Right.
So then that's when we went on the process and trying to find the name.
So there's a few things. Some of us who had sort of were told about this, well, okay, Nate contacted the hospital, and the first thing that came up in everyone's mind is HIPAA. And so what people tend to sort of forget about HIPAA is that you cannot reveal patient information. If you were never a patient at the hospital, there's no information to unveil, right? So I think a lot of people who sort of reference HIPAA.
So, Drag, not to interrupt you too much, but it's actually more specific than that, because I have worked with HIPAA-protected data in the lab, and what it is it's not that you can't get patient information. You can't get identifiable information that relates to their treatment or condition. And so that's kind of the key thing, right? So you can say, was this person a patient here? That's not identifiable information with regards to their condition, right? And I think that that's where people miss the distinction, right? It's not just that magically you can't access anything related to this person when it comes to medical stuff. It has to do specifically with identification and with specific conditions.
All right, and so here we are. This is the same image. Let me go back to it, actually. Move this one around. We've already noticed the glaring issue with the two invoice numbers and the two dates being the same, right? Now, when we're trying to sort of verify, well, is this even from that hospital, or I should say this network of hospitals, they've already said, hey, here's a formula. The invoice IDs themselves, the numbers themselves, don't actually fit any of the formulas that we use. And
correct.
Yeah, so one of those you could have just glanced at it and noticed, and the other took a phone call that took maybe 5 minutes, Nate? If that?
Yeah,
So,
if less than 5 minutes.
Okay, and so again, because I want to motion right back here. Here we go. Red's rhetoric. I said I would never address this again, yet here we are, both Fight the Flat Earth official and I witnessed Ilya log into her bank and pull up her transaction history. Payments to her cancer center were made. The amounts of the invoice, the amounts matched the invoice. She didn't fake anything, right? Again, these guys are verifying this fraudulent information that took Nate all of 5 minutes to find out is just a complete fabrication. Right, so due diligence was not done at all whatsoever. So, okay, Nate. So from there, you knew something was up. So, after you found out, Nate, that you knew about the formula.
Yeah. So after we got that bombshell, the invoice numbers are wrong, blah blah blah. We just said, okay, well, just let's get the woman's name. Or let's just get the patient ID, right? So I went to Fight, and I went to another contact that I had for the other side, and I'm like, yo, listen, if we just get her name, I can give it to the hospital. They'll clear it up all right now. She was a patient, and if the invoice is kooky, whatever. She's a patient. She's getting, who wants to know, right? I don't care if she got treatment then or a little later, but the person has cancer. Okay, let's just call it a day. So we got the real name, and then when I went back to the hospital, I said, well, here's the real name. Boom. This person says they were a patient there. The hospital, the particular hospital she said she went to, said no. That name is for no patient who's ever been here.
Okay, so just
that
for clarification,
it has never been to this hospital.
For clarification, we're talking about the hospital, the Thompson Cancer Survival Center, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and I think people are sort of still trying to figure out what went on. The GoFundMe essentially stated that, well, Ilya Moon has cancer. She has bills from said cancer, and so this image that we're seeing here was put up there to sort of convince people that she was a cancer survivor of sorts. And now Nate has verified that she was never a part of said hospital. It's in the network of hospitals in her area. That is correct. But she was never a patient here. And so with that information, Nate, did you give that to Fight the Flat Earth, or who did you inform as to this?
Because that was just part one, right?
Okay.
Due diligence. Part one was, okay, this hospital doesn't have her name, but what about the network, right? Because they have a whole network of hospitals.
Correct.
So I had the number to call the main network to see if she was in the network. So I went to the network and I said, well, here's the name. Network said, well, hold on. You need a birthday, right? Because we found 15 the name throughout the state of Tennessee, right? 15 throughout the state. So now we need to find out if this person, if this is the one that you're looking for. Even though it's like 100 miles away, the closest one is, it could be the one we're looking for, right? So then we got the birthday, and Ilya had said that her particular that the hospital she particularly went to was this Thompson Cancer one. So we knew that was, she couldn't have been that one because they said, and she gave us the address of which one specifically she went to. So now with the name and the birthday, we went back to the main hospital. They said, no, there's no patient with that record, with that name and that birthday at any of our hospitals. Then we went back to the main one, and we went actually to the office that she said she worked. She was getting treatments at. And that office said, no, this person has never been a patient here. And then that's when it went back to Fight the Flat Earth.
Oh, wow.
The hospital, and I wasn't the only one to confirm it. I think there was 2 or 3 other people to also confirm that she was never a patient at this particular hospital.
Okay, so after you initially called and confirmed she was never a patient here, several other people then called to also verify independently of you.
Correct, just to make sure that I didn't make a mistake or something like that.
Right. Okay. So, and I understand that they're no longer accepting calls about this particular case.
Yeah. Too many people were calling.
Which makes sense. Okay. So now, Fight the Flat Earth has been told that you verified that this is fraudulent. She's been lying to you. She's been lying to me. She's been lying to Red. She's been lying to everyone. So from there, what did Fight the Flat Earth do?
Well, then Fight, which he's released a statement. So Fight said that now he went on a phone call, right? So they go and confront Ilya, supposedly on the phone.
You say they? Who's they?
Red Rhetoric and Fight the Flat Earth. They supposedly go confront Ilya. Now, from my end, it seems like Ilya then they I think they go in some patient pool. They do something. But eventually it just wasn't good enough. So I think they were like, listen, let's just call the hospital. That's what Nate did, right? Nate just called the hospital. You give them your information and we'll verify this right now. Supposedly phone goes dead. 20 minutes later, she's back. Let's call the hospital, right? She calls the hospital, speaks to somebody. Everything's on up and up. Cancer, of course, blah, 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 blah. They hang up the phone call. Next thing I know, I'm talking to Fight and he's like, yo, that phone call was straight bull. So I'm like,
he didn't believe it.
That? Yeah, he knew it straight from the jump. He was like, yo, that's straight. That phone call was straight garbage. He's like, they are trying to scam me. So I'm like, but do you know? Are you sure? He's like, yeah, that phone call was bull. Go ahead, Drag.
So Fight at that point, after he hears what he was told was a conversation with, I guess, some medical facility that she belongs to, does he indicate whether or not Redline believed that it was real?
Yeah, he told me he thought Redline believed it was real.
Redline actually believed it?
He said I think he had told me at that time Redline had believed it, but Redline was more skeptical.
He was more skeptical. Okay.
He was skeptical that she was lying, but he wasn't. But he wasn't dumb, but he was supposedly more skeptical that she was lying. Then we went to after that, she then produces some documents, right? Passes it to them. So then Fight's like, yo, these documents got major errors. Dates are wrong. Like some dates are missing slashes and some dates are from like 20 years ago. She's like, yo, this is all messed up, right? There's so many errors on this thing. So she tried to pass them off as good documents. So at this time, Fight got this document, which was fraudulent. You can see it got errors on it. She tries to pass them off a couple of more documents that got errors on it. And on top of that, the hospital saying she was never a patient there, and he got the fake phone call. So that's what Fight has up to that point.
Wow. Okay. So at this point, she's given what, maybe 10 documents of different varieties to Fight the Flat Earth and Reds. And so at that time, Fight the Flat Earth is not buying it. Reds may be on the fence, but he knows something's up. So how did that progress into the infamous, well, now infamous, conversation between you and Ilya?
So at the point we got all this information, right? We got all this information, and it had become clear she was not a patient. It was not this. The hospital was the hospital that called it a scam at that point in time. They're like, yo, this was just a straight up scam. So it was kind of like, well, what are we going to do? Then before that, we had the infamous screen record of the what's it called, the bank statements. So mind you, this woman has already tried to pass multiple fake documents to them. She's already, the hospital's confirming she never was a patient there. We got other documents that are clearly fake. Next thing you know, we go to so she got this screen record. Now, I'm not sure if Reds was there I think Reds was there when she did this, when she logged on and did the screen record, and then they gave Fight the recording. But during that screen record, he looks through the bank statements and shows the four transactions that they said mirror this. Those 4 transactions supposedly convinced Reds to come out with the statement that, the statement you were showing earlier. I've seen the 4 bank statements. And yeah, this.
So I'm being told at that point in time, thank you, Exile, by the way, that Reds was at least skeptical at that point upon, had the conversation with the supposed provider at the supposed, hospital. So he's still skeptical, but he does come out and he makes this statement on Twitter.
Yes. And then I don't know if you see Steve's statement behind it, but yeah. So they're going full fledged, it's just, this is all nonsense, and Reds is all down for the cause. They match. It's all good. He's not even making another statement against it again. So, right. So Fight was having an issue with it. Fight said, well, listen, this doesn't make any sense because we got hello?
Yeah, you good.
Yeah, so Fight was like, well, listen, this just is too peculiar. Those bank statements that she pulled up look real, but I have all this other evidence that just wasn't, that can't be real. She tried to fool me 3 times earlier today, right? She's trying to pass fake documents, and I'm supposed to believe this is real. So he begrudgingly, he said he begrudgingly, but he put out a tweet, his own tweet, seeming to back it. So I kept saying, do you really think? He was like, I can't, it just seems so real. It seems so good. And I'm like, this, people forge this stuff all the time. I said, the only way you're going to be sure is by getting a login yourself. But anyway, he started being convinced by this. They were circling the wagon, and I wouldn't talk about it again. So what I did was say, well, listen, I got asked for a couple of people who had actually donated, and I have actually donated to it. Were just concerned. They were just concerned because they were like, hey, Sean gave it up, right? Sean said it was a fraud, this, nobody's going to the police. But for this one, people were a little upset because they were like, well, they're just going to just straight lie to us, with passing bad documents. We want some closure here. Maybe we should contact the authorities. So right. I put together a package. I sent it to the people on both sides, the YBI and the people on Red Rhetoric side. They all got, email that sent the Fight to, and just my package to the police department showing exactly what happened.
So wait, hold on for a second.
Please don't yell.
Wait, Drag, are you telling me dunking on flurps is easier than misleading Nate? NAHHHNAHH. Hash, what about you?
Okay, so that was a super chat. So evidently dunking on flat earthers is easier than misleading trained prosecutor, evidently. But no, that brings up a good point. Go ahead, Nate. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sam.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that there's this is where it becomes interesting in the sense that you have basically piles of evidence, but you also have things that Nate knows second nature about because of his experiences, right? Because of his qualifications as an investigator, as an assistant district attorney, as a law enforcement officer. And so the thing that I find really interesting about all of this is that Fight the Flat Earth and Red's rhetoric are constantly declaring that they've seen everything and they know. And what we've seen now in the case of basically two fundraisers in a row is that they're not very good at actually investigating these claims. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone has to be good or that everyone is going to recognize a scam when they see it. Everyone gets fooled. But there needs to be a little bit of I don't want to say critical thinking is not exactly the right word, but there needs to be some discernment that goes into these claims rather than just simply declaring on my character is good because I debunk flat earth, which seems to be what most of these tweets are saying, if not just implying and relying on.
All right, so they're very, very telling, right? And I've seen quite a few exchanges between people sort of asking, like, what was their methodology?
I definitely agree.
Right.
I think this is a lot of trust me, but it's not a lot of really thinking.
Right, and that's the one question that I had is that neither one of these guys are actually trained to investigate anything. As far as I think, Fight the Flat Earth's backgrounds in physics, and Redline didn't have any education to hold on to. So neither one of them have your experience, neither one of them have your education, neither one of them have actually done any of this stuff in real life. And to make matters worse, they're saying that they're investigating someone that's technically part of their tribe. So if you were trying to investigate someone and you wanted to claim impartiality, could you effectively do that if it's someone, let's say a family member, for instance? Is there any SOP about that, Nate? And I guess
but obviously, it should be somebody independent of the investigation, but because take the emotions out of it. So generally, that's the way it works. But again, this is really, like I was saying to somebody earlier, and just to make a fair point. If someone told me you were doing this, right, and you gave me a receipt, more than likely I'm not going to take it to the hospital and check it, right? I'm not going to be like, Drag gave me this receipt, is it right? The only reason why it did it this time is the receipt was all messed up. So I can give them the first thing where the first receipt's messed up and they didn't realize it, and then we looked. But when that first receipt is bad, and then you get that fake phone call, and then they give you more fake receipts, there's no way I think they should have been making this type of statement. Because how can I trust now this screen record when I know that you've been actively trying to deceive me for like the past week, like 4 times today? You know what I mean? That type.
That's a great point.
Well, that's the biggest thing, I think, is that, I can't speak for the other two gentlemen here, but I've been in a position where I've found out that a friend of mine probably did some fucked up shit, like to some degree. Right. And the guy stole my friend, and it was, long story, nothing illegal, nothing like honestly anything more than a 20-year-old would do. But it was not good. Right. And I ended up reading about this in a blog post. And I remember feeling conflicted, but you want to know what the first thing I didn't do is just go and lash out at the person who wrote, the allegations against him in a blog post. Right. And I think that's I actually don't hold it again. Like, listen, I can say that these people are gullible. I believe they are gullible, even for this being their friend. But as Nate said, if it was one of you two in here and I had heard that, I'd kind of be dismissive to start with, but I'm not going to go around and be an active denialist and then castigate anyone who is actually suspicious. Right. I think that's where it crosses into the realm of being fucked up. Because how many times did we get personal reassurances from Red's rhetoric and Fight the Flat Earth that everything was above board, and then the person who they got fooled by actually tells us that it isn't? I think at a certain point, it's not an accident that people are able to figure these things out via investigation. At a certain point, you have to say, like, hey, maybe I'm not doing a good job discerning people, and be self-reflective. And I think that's really where it comes down, because I'm fully, like, listen, like, I'm fully willing to accept when people have done fucked up shit to me or fucked up shit to people that I care about. And I've had to address that, and it's uncomfortable as shit, but we have to be reasonable and not just lash out. And I think that that's where the problem came in.
There's a lot of tribalism, and because I didn't actively engage in any of the back and forth, but I watched quite a bit of it, especially from Fight the Flat Earth, and a little bit from Reds, where people were being castigated for questioning their methodology. They didn't really have any. The fact that Fight the Flat Earth is deferring to YouTube videos for his education in how to spot scams and discrepancies was hilarious to me, because if this were a flat earther, and this flat earther said, hey, I watch YouTube videos from whoever, and that's how I'm educated in physics or engineering or whatever, would they have accepted that? I don't think so. So why should people who are claiming to be able to have these skills that don't actually have these skills be, I guess, glossed over in the grand scheme of things? Because I really want to point out sort of the ineptitude. Now, I will give credit to where credit's due for Fight the Flat Earth. He was instrumental in helping to facilitate some of the things that had happened. But one of the things that I mentioned in my video before, this was brought back up by people in their tribe. And I say tribe because of their tribal mentality. But if I'm not mistaken, Nate, more than one person reached out because they had misgivings about Ilya Moon and the financial situation.
Well, right after, well, actually, it's happening actually again now, but right after the Sean thing popped up, there are people from that side, I think there were 3 or 4 people, reached out and said, Ilya Moon didn't have cancer, and we know that she's been faking cancer. And the fundraiser was fake. 4 people said that.
4 people?
So, 4 people. They said the Ilya Moon fundraiser was a scam and that she never had cancer.
Oh wow! So
we got those from 4 sources, and those were and 2 of those sources were pretty high level sources over there. So it's kind of like there's a little smoke here, but then it was kind of because then these people like to set people up and all this other stuff. But it was kind of like, so when it kind of came over like that, they were like, yo, if you think Sean is bad, wait till you see Ilya's. And we're like, what are you talking about? Wait till you see Ilya's. She had cancer. But then it was just kind of like, but both of them got caught out there with the same thing. Just check the receipt, right? Tried to check Sean's receipt. His is in a dresser traveling down the Hudson River or something like that. And when you ask this woman for a receipt, and you're getting these, documents that obviously have their issues to it. So, all these things are coming down to receipt. And now it's about Bull's fundraiser, right? All the receipts are nothing but blacked out nonsense, right? So it seems like, if you're having a fundraiser and the hardest thing for you to do is present a receipt that you spent the money how you did, then that fundraiser is in question.
Yeah, and I think that people should really, really proceed forward very carefully when sort of laying the blame at people's feet. And I definitely want to say something publicly. I don't think Fight the Flat Earth had a direct hand in these financial improprieties. I do think that he helped obfuscate quite a bit because, well, it's part of his tribe. It's just bias. We all have it. I have seen people assert that, because Redline, again, Red's rhetoric, he's always here as the purveyor of all this information directly from the scammers, that he is somehow implicated. There's currently 0 evidence to support a direct connection or any direct financial improprieties. I want for people to really, really hone in on that because it's easy to make baseless speculations just because you don't like someone. I don't care for a lot of the people involved, but we need to sort of stay above board and say my personal disdain for this person is not evidence that they've actually done something wrong, right? Is there a smoking Ruger here? Absolutely, right? We have 2 instances of the same group of people, right, and the same purveyors of this information are being at sort of the core of what's happening here. And then the reassurance by said people that everything's fine when they've not done their due diligence. So I think that it's very, very easy to say, well, of course these people aren't amongst my tribe. Of course they're dumb. That's the same mistake that they made. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, I want to go ahead and wrap this up soon because I think, Nate, you have another stop tonight, don't you?
Yeah, but that's at 9:30. But I do. But let's move on from to the next one.
Yeah.
I also want to add something in is I don't think, like you said, Drag, I don't think we have, positive evidence that Red is involved, but we also can't rule it out. And I think that so I had gotten into a Twitter discussion when I was, being a goofball on Twitter, as I tend to do, with Fight the Flat Earth. And Fight the Flat Earth, was insisting everything's above board and not thinking of all of the different ways that these fundraisers, that some of the money could have been laundered to Reds. Now, I'm not saying that this happened. And I want to be clear, I'm not doing a weird Joe Rogan-esque cop-out here. I don't genuinely believe this because there's no evidence, but you can imagine that someone could send in for a money order, right? That's not traceable. You can imagine maybe he has a bank account. If you just took my Bank of America accounts, you would not get a full snapshot of what my liquid cash is because I have several accounts at different banks. And so there has to be this attitude of, at this point, agnosticism towards what Red's involvement is. Does it look like he got fooled? Maybe, but it's hard to know because how much of this has been linchpinned on, trust me, I know everything that's going on.
Right. Something that's market was skeptic.
Exactly. And so what you say is like, oh, either you didn't actually know what anything's going on, in which case you were being dishonest, or you were just being hand wavy and not actually skeptical, or you actually did know what was going on. And now this is sort of like the retcon of all of that. We don't actually know. Right. And I think that's a really important thing to say because we don't want to have a serious allegation. I think that either way, this does not paint him well. But there's no reason to say he's an outright scammer until we have proof. Exactly.
There's suspicious behavior. And Exile, thank you again for mentioning something that I'd forgotten. Anytime that Red's Rhetoric finds out that someone outside of his tribe is investigating these things, he privates the video. And so the Sean video was private, and from what I understand, the Ilya Moon video was also private recently, as well as maybe one other video concerning something else that may be currently being investigated behind the scenes. So there's a lot of shady behavior going on when it comes to people's involvement. I understand also that there are certain tweets that are now being deleted. And so the retcons will happen. Absolutely. I've seen it happen. I've experienced it with Red's Rhetoric himself. So just sort of expect that. The more his hands are sort of in all of this, the more you're going to see, less transparency from him. Now, who made the contact, Nate, between you and Ilya? Who was like the mediator there that sort of kicked off that little interview you did?
There seems to be the reason for it. Well, first, I just got a tweet from her randomly, in my DMs. I'd like to talk, yada yada yada. But come to find out, she was concerned about the investigation. After we turned over everything to the police, we said, "Yeah."
Well, okay. When you say investigation, you're talking about from actual police in her state.
Yes, we were saying we're gonna after we put the packet together. I CC'd Flight, some people on their side, Unimac's crew, and we sent the package to the police department saying, "Hey, this was going on, Tennessee, check it out." Wow. Ilya got wind of it, and then started calling police departments, trying to find out which one we reported it to. And then when she was unsuccessful doing that, she reached out to me because she was concerned, obviously, about her exposure because she knew that she didn't have cancer. And we gave them all this information about fake invoices, she's not being there at the hospital. So then she reached out to me and wanted to see if we can come to some type of arrangement. Obviously to keep her out of the out of any criminal liability.
So hold on for a second, Nate. You mean to tell me you put together a packet after finding out there's a lot of discrepancies, you give it to the proper authorities in her area so that they can sort of follow through and check things out on their own. She catches wind of that, and so she tries to preemptively contact the police, and not one but several police departments in her area in an effort to sort of get ahead of this packet. Do I understand that correctly? Wow. Yeah. Because that's what an innocent person does, I presume. So that's very fascinating. So that fails. she reaches out to you, and so she says, "Hey, I want to sit down. I want to chat." And so that's sort of the genesis of this video, where she then actually tells you that she's tried to call different police departments, but to no avail.
Exactly. And then so but then she wanted to have an open and honest conversation, get some things off her chest. So at this point, I'll play priest if you want to play. I'll play priest if you want to play penance, and let's have a conversation. And then that's what you saw happening in the video.
Wow. Yeah, because I sat down. Actually, me and the wife sat down and listened to it, and it was amazing. It was absolutely the progression from I'm a great person, I'm a good person, my mom had cancer, oh yes, that and the other, to I didn't mean to scam anyone was amazing. And by the way, when will you be uploading the full video to your channel so people can go watch it?
Yeah, I'm going to be putting it up probably tomorrow, because I want to let everybody get their get their views about the clips and stuff for the day. So tomorrow morning it should be up. It'll be the full interview about and I was going to narrate it to let everybody understand, but like the goals I was trying to do with each kind of part of it. But I think everybody can kind of see it for what it is.
Right.
So it's really starting with someone who's you're walking into really a hostile interview, because this person wants information from me, I want information from her, and then you kind of have to kind of battle it through those competing interests. My information is really free. It's her information that has a cost, and that's where you see the battle at. Well, here's the information. Are you really trying to be honest with me? That type of thing. So and I tried to break it down in that way. I did make some mistakes where obviously I made it confess like 5 or 6 times or something like that. But confession is good for the soul, obviously. But things like that way. And I didn't really hammer on the cancer point, because after she since she forged documents and everything, it's like come on, we know you didn't have cancer.
So
it's a reasonable inference to make.
She's already admitted to a crime. So this is something that I didn't know. Just so everybody understands, there's like 200 some people watching. She committed actual crimes, correct?
Well, I to be honest with you, I don't practice in that jurisdiction, so I don't know.
Okay, and that's fair.
These are crimes. The only thing I can say is, generally, if you're presenting forged documents and trying to induce people to give you money based on those forged documents, most places would consider that against some violation of the penal code. But again, I'm just not sure in Tennessee. I know here in New York, generally, each forged document that you present to someone else to try to get money is a count itself. So each document itself could be a felony count. If you do 5 documents, it's 5 felony counts. So, but again, I don't know how it works in Tennessee. This may not even be a crime in Tennessee for all I know. I'm pretty certain it is, but I just, honestly, I couldn't say either way, because I'm just not licensed in Tennessee.
Well, I would surmise that there's something there, or the police wouldn't be interested in this, because I think that at one point you indicated that the police in her area are interested in this.
Yes. They've even emailed back and just want to do some follow-up stuff. So yeah, they're interested, because this is pretty open and shut, especially now that you got 2 confessions. So
right, okay.
And I think it should also be highlighted here is, and for the audience, is that even if this doesn't technically end up as a crime, it should be a warning as to, and I've been saying this for years. You and I, Drag, I've slowly converted you to this position, but I don't think that GoFundMe's are usually trustworthy. And I hate to say that, and I hate to be the cynic, right? Because I want to help people. But the reality is that unless you're doing something with some real oversight, or maybe it's a GoFundMe that donates to a charity, you just never know where the money is going. And we've had sort of several examples of this in that community, where we don't know where the money went. It didn't go to what it was designed to go to, besides these 2. And so what people need to look for is I see a lot of people who are decrying and saying, well, now this screws up future fundraisers. And I would say, no, this should tell you that these private fundraisers are not always responsible, because it's just hard to like really audit where it goes to, rather than a publicly registered charity, or advocating for maybe donating to political action committee that advocates for healthcare reform, right? Which I've done, rather than donate to medical GoFundMe's. I am not saying that people, of course, people have the right, and I am not by any means saying that most GoFundMe's are, or even a significant amount are fraudulent. I'm just saying that this is something where it's not a great tragedy. It's kind of revealing things that were kind of known to some of the more cynical people around here, which is that if there's no guaranteed oversight, you can get scammed. You can get taken for a ride, and it sucks. And that shouldn't be happening.
Right. And I think it does stand to say it probably helps that some of us have personally dealt with Red's rhetoric in real life and with money issues. So this was no surprise to any of us who've had that experience with him. But for the people who believe the whatever he wants to call himself and be on the internet, right? It's real fun to sort of see people have that watershed moment and realize that there's something not right here. This is now the second GoFundMe scam where someone has admitted to some sort of impropriety. And I think that there is probably more. I said this in the first one. There's an inkling, there are concerns, there was not evidence at the time. Now there is evidence, now there's a confession, and there's probably going to be more. And I would say, I think people should look into, even the ones that I was involved in, look into them, just for peace of mind. Because there is something that goes on here, and I'm willing to put money that the same people who are involved in this may be a bit more gun shy or Ruger shy this time around, because now those same excuses aren't going to fly. And deleting tweets and trying to hide this and reformat this as sort of a victory for Fight the Flat Earth and Reds is not going to help this problem go away.
I would sort of echo that. I mean, I think that there are a couple of them that I can name off the top of my head, but I don't necessarily have the receipts, and so I don't really want to talk about it in the focus of this hangout. But certainly, there are shady GoFundMe's going on, and the thing that I've learned through this, because it's important for the newer folks to recognize that this was not a regular thing, right? It was not a regular thing that for online communities you'd have constant GoFundMe's. That was actually a very, very rare thing that almost never came up, and now it's almost constant. A lot of this stuff, you almost heard it in the recording that, Ilya Moon could have gone to her own family to get money. Now, look, I don't enjoy borrowing money from family. I don't think anyone in this room enjoys doing that. But sometimes, it's better to do that or to, really kind of corral around you personal people. Drag has flown to visit me, twice now, for different occasions. And I bought the tickets initially and he paid me back. I didn't want him to crowdfund that. I wanted, a personal guarantee and personal oversight on that. And I think that people just have to be careful. I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't loan or give money to friends. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we can't, if someone is going out and holding out a tin cup, in public for someone, they might be genuine, but there's an equal chance that they are not genuine. And that's really unfortunate. I wish the world wasn't that way, but it is.
Yeah, it is shitty. And it's sad because the people who are honest, people who actually do need help, are the ones that end up suffering the most. And so it's a shame. People who are complicit in this too, who understand that lying for people like this does not help anything. So now we're here. Ilya Moon has put out a series of tweets, from what I understand, and I want to hope that I got these in order. And this is her final public statement. I have retained a lawyer and will be working with them and GoFundMe, whom have been contacted already, to confirm and refund all donations received through GoFundMe presented last year on my behalf. I will say there are missteps I made and lies in the process. It goes on. And at no time were Red's Rhetoric, Fight the Flat Earth, or channel members privy to the information that I had lied about. They are not at fault for my actions. I do not know GoFundMe's time frame or process of refunds, but they will be issued in full along with any PayPal donations. I want to be clear. Yes, I had a tumor. Yes, there was a medical treatment. However, it was due to the past medical bills that were catching up to me, and I messed up with not being honest in that. I don't expect I don't expect anyone to believe me at all anymore. Truth. but I will do the right thing. From this point forward, everyone will get a refund from GoFundMe once we confirm they can pull the funds back from my account.
Yelling in your ear. Please don't yell.
Sound financial advice, Sam. I am so shocked you could give it.
Oh, okay. We got a daily dose of
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
So, I am truly sorry for hurt and or harm I caused, and please know that no one else involved knew the truth or covered for me. That's actually not true. There's several people who covered for you when they verified your fraudulent information. They may not have been doing it with the intention to deceive people, but due to their negligence, they did actually cover for you. So that I disagree with that. This was my doing 100%. I'm sorry. From the point forward, my legal counsel will be handling all the refunds and conversation with GoFundMe and ensuring I right the wrongs. Again, I don't know why she put right that way. Again, I apologize to all I have failed and hurt. So that's her statement, I think, as of today. And so it's interesting now that things have sort of come out and they've come to a head that she's making this. But I think, you know what? This is a step in the right direction, right? She should retain legal counsel and probably shut the hell up.
I mean, I think that it's a completely phony apology, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Why is this like? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, so did she make up a cancer treatment? Now it's still for medical bills, but in the past, I'm sorry, this is as believable as Sean Hufford and his Grubhub story. That's the first thing. It is just not believable at all. But look, I think that, any lawyer will tell you, and I was raised by two of them, you shut the fuck up once you get to this point. And so, like, she's probably being smart by doing that. But everything up to this point has just not been smart.
Amen, brother. But at one point, I'll tell you this: sometimes you can talk too much, and I think she's already told the tale because all these statements can be used against her, right?
Oh yeah.
Wrong. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. Yeah, I doctored the documents. I lied to everybody. These aren't good statements that you want to make before any type of criminal liability could be assessed. Because it just as much as easy it is for her to write this, it's easy for the right people to see it. I think at the end of the day, though, this it's weird because you got two scams, and they all have and there's one common thread. And I know a lot of people or probably don't want to say this, but the common thread is Red's rhetoric, and he's always the one that's closest to the money, closest to the information, and close to the person scamming. And anytime anybody challenges the scam, he's the first one to jump on it and defend it with his life. Right? These people, he said, what was this? He said Sean. He knew for a fact Sean spent the money in the way it's supposed to be spent. Lie. Ilya, he confirmed, and not only it's just don't get me wrong. Fool me once, but he's working on his third time right now. That's kind of where we're at with this. So don't get me wrong. I have no evidence that he's done anything wrong. But if there's a fundraiser with the color red, I might not be given to it.
Well, what you said, Nate, is really really smart, and what I personally think as well is that, okay, like, yeah, I don't have definitive proof that this is Red's fault. Right? I think that that's a fair thing to say. I think that we all have to say that. But if you're telling me that some guy who claims to be close friends with both of these people, who co-signs them personally, who is the person who platforms them for the charity, just has no clue that there's something untoward, he is either just insanely negligent, or, and I think this is more likely, there's something that's going on that we all don't know about at the present moment. And so, from a consumer standpoint, I think we all have to agree that, at this point, when it comes to fundraisers, the color red is radioactive.
All right.
Sure.
So I'm trying to screen share something. I think this came from Redline's Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. Yep, it was Croc. Okay, with this post, I have now cut all ties with Sean Hufford. Also
This is
addressed
Sean
other
Hufford
things.
going to Sean Hufford under the bus.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this out in full. This was the April 28th, 2021. And by the way, so this was on Redline's Twitter. It might still be up there, might not. I haven't checked. I don't care to. Now the second thing to address goddamn, learn how to use a comma. Over the past few days, I have heard that claims are being made that Ilya Moon faked her cancer and the treatment of her cancer for a quick payday. The most absurd claim is that I am covering for Ilya because we supposedly had sex. Claims like that show that Twitter and YouTube are functioning as normal as a toxic waste dump. And I would really like to know who started that rumor because I am sure it would say a lot more about them than it does about me. Personally, I do not give a shit about your problems with Ilya, so I am only going to address this once. I have seen the receipts from her cancer center. The narrative that she faked her cancer for a quick payday is false. And I am sorry to ruin your fantasy, but I have not had sex with Ilya. I know, a damn shame, right? And again, I would really like to know who started that rumor. I imagine a lot of context would instantly be known upon learning such details.
Now,
and then
you know what the wild part about that one paragraph is? I don't know. It's like it's the whole paragraph fake. You know what I'm saying? Because we know the first half is straight up fake.
Right. Yeah, we know now this is bullshit. This is absolute bullshit. I don't know. I heard someone told me that he had sex with her. I don't know. I don't care. But she's a part of the tribe nonetheless. And so he has still covered for her. He is saying that it's not fake. That is covering for her. When you tell people that you have verified the receipts, quote unquote, when you tell people it's not fake, you are covering for her. I'm not sure what dictionary he uses, but that is literally what he has been doing this entire time. Up until very recently, within the last few hours, he has been covering for her. So I'll show another picture for you here. Here we go. Just need to get this out to the piece of shit spreading rumors that Ilya Moon faked her cancer for a quick payday. Go fuck yourself. So if anybody who's saying that Ilya faked this, Redline wants you to go fuck yourself. So that's nice. And anybody who tries to harass her because of those rumors, go fuck yourself as well. Some sick fucks in this world. That's crazy. So I'm curious. I'm really, really curious now, right? Because this is some humble pie. Why is it that the people who attach themselves to Redline want others to treat them with civility? Does this look like the type of person that is addressing concerns in a civil manner? Does this look like the hallmarks of a person who understands that there are legitimate concerns, especially given the close proximity to the recent scammer, Sean Hufford, that was also in his midst, right? So, excuse me and literally every other person who was supposed to go fuck off for drawing our ire towards a group of individuals who clearly can't adult, who clearly have problems with money, and who cannot be trusted. But, so, this is something I think people should pay attention to. Oh, I'm being told now that, Fight the Flat Earth retweeted this. Did he? Really? Yes, he did. Thank you. Yeah, there it is. Fight the Flat Earth retweeted that. So I'm always curious. I'm really, really curious. I was under the impression that Fight the Flat Earth was not up Redline's ass, but it's clear here that they're verifying false information and they're not dealing with people in a civil manner. These two seem to be beyond reproach, and I can't think of a better indicator that your mindset is not in the right place to be objective. Because anyone in the chat, does this look like the hallmarks of guys who are objective? Does this look like something that someone impartial would say? It doesn't to me, but you be the judge of that. You be the judge of that and draw your own conclusions, because this right here did not age well at all. At all. So, on that note,
spreading rumors still your perfect.
Yeah,
those weren't rumors, guys.
Just oh man, due diligence would have did these guys some good. But so, Nate, any last words?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. just how all this stuff developed. And I honestly, I think this was a good thing. I think it's a good thing for two reasons. Number one, people are going to start now having some type of criteria and rules for these GoFundMe's, right? Number one, let's only use GoFundMe and not PayPal, right? Because you don't know how much is given. By using GoFundMe, you have some protections. You can report to somebody if something goes wrong. Also, make sure the person gives receipts that are just not redacted to death, things of that nature. Let's do follow-ups on how the money was spent, because that's what they were hoping for, right? This is a year later for both these things. And these people were just hoping they would go away. Sean got his 10K. This person's got her 5K. And, it was a year later where people are saying, well, let's just see the receipt, and that broke the whole thing down. Remember, these two things just went down from one question. Let's see a receipt. That's it. So.
All right. Sam, anything? So I know you had a direct interaction with Fight the Flat Earth very, very recently, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, Sam might be AFK. So.
Sorry, I was in a new apartment. It's a 1-bedroom. Shit in this.
Damn.
So he's called the Matrix.
He's strictly the Matrix right now.
Oh no,
They pulled him back in the Matrix. So, oh man, I lost my train of thought. So, there we go. He's back. There we go. You back with us, Sam?
Yeah. I had to unplug and replug my headphones. I had a phone call, so it switched to that. Fucked up my. But I have a new apartment, so that's kind of cool. GoFundMe for? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay.
So you had a conversation to Fight the Flat Earth, and you sort of forwarded some of these, some of the same objections that everyone else had. So what was your experience?
He tried to call me low IQ and unable to reason.
Oh, that's funny.
And tried to flex on how much money he makes being online. That was my experience with him. He kind of seemed, like it was not necessarily, and again, I'm not trying to say that like I would be perfectly skeptical if this happened to you, Drag, right?
Sure.
But it was not an attitude of honest engagement and skepticism.
Yeah, and I think that's something that really sticks out. If you want a civil conversation, you have a civil conversation, even if it's somebody you like, right? You try your best. But man, I think that hey, if you're a fan of rocket videos, there's plenty of people who do rocket videos. You're a fan of fucking flat earth debate stuff, there's plenty of other people who can do it. There are certain people who are just not above board, right? You can be fans of people were fans of EDP, right? I'll bring him up, right? So don't put too much stock into people because you like their content. Some people are actually shitty people. I can tell you from personal experience. Actually, all of us here can tell you that one of the people involved in this is actually shitty in real life, and there's a reason we removed ourselves from his presence. But if you want to continue to donate, you want to continue to patron guys like this, then have at it, right? It's your money, but don't get other people involved in their scams, right? And I say their scam, people in that circle. Again, there's no direct evidence tying Redline to any financial improprieties other than sort of defending them and verifying their fraudulent information, oddly enough. But let's sort of keep these claims evidence based, and that goes for everybody.
Well, Drag, what I would say is that further, just because someone does something well, like I've never seen any of Fight the Flat Earth's videos, I'm going to be honest, other than the ones covering this drama, because I'm just not interested in, dunking on people who think the earth is flat. I'm sorry, it's boring to me. But, look, I have no doubt he must make good videos, right? Because, he's got 40,000 subs or whatever, and he's gotten some sort of following. Just because he's good at that doesn't mean he's good at everything, right? And I think that there's this error that kind of started off in the ethos maybe 10 years ago of where people would declare themselves rational thinkers. What Drag will tell you is me and Drag work in pretty adjacent fields. When you say Drag, like there's a continuum, right? But when it comes to, because I've recently had to do wet lab work, which actually, you know, drags more experience than in some stuff. He knows way more than I do. But then in other stuff, I know way more than he does because he hasn't done those types of experiments, right?
Exactly.
And the idea that, oh, because both of us are scientists, that means that we can evaluate everything scientifically. That's just not true, right? And this is not to say that you need to only stay in your own lane and don't, you know, try to make big academic, like, no, be ambitious intellectually, but also recognize that there's limits at every point and try to check in with yourself. And this is an example with a lot of this of not checking in with themselves. And I think that if we're gonna single out a criticism about these people, is that they believed that they were a final authority for claims and that the evidence wasn't a final authority.
Exactly.
And that's not skepticism. It is.
Right. Their personal credulity was their yardstick for determining the veracity of these claims. And I saw a lot of that between Flight to Flat Earth and Res Rhetoric, right? If you didn't agree with them, then you were inherently, non-skeptic. And I think that that's the error that they made, because when it came down to just again, let me go back to and show you guys something. When it came to this, you can look at this and see, even without the red boxes, that these two invoice numbers are the same. Like, they could have made the phone call. You have the name of the area, you know her full name, right? She's your friend. You could have done that. That did not take a whole lot of effort, nor does it take a huge IQ. But when you fooled yourself into thinking that you're far more superior and smarter than everyone else, you fuck up like this. And this is where Redline and fucking Fight the Flat Earth really showed their ass. This level of ineptitude comes from being biased, and they should really be kicking themselves in the ass for it, which I'm sure they are. So on that note, I will bid you all adieu. Thank you, my guest Nate, Scientist Sam. You guys can see the full video on Nate's channel later of the interview and the confession that happens at the end. My favorite part of 44 minutes. So that's it, folks. That's it. I guess, should I play emo on the way out?
I would enjoy that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Make a lying video saying that I stole money from an elderly woman? You want to make up lies, Gary? And then you call it